May 6, 2019, Fairhaven, Vermont. The first bone appeared while she was planting roses. Sarah Langley, 38, recently divorced, had moved into the weathered Victorian 3 weeks earlier. A fixer-upper as the realtor promised. Overgrown garden. Crooked fence. But peaceful and hers. She wore gloves. Used a spade. Was careful. But when her trowel hit something solid, it made a hollow click. Not like stone. Not wood. She brushed away dirt and found it. A finger bone. Small. Weathered. Still curled slightly. She called the police. Fairhaven was small, under 3,000 people. The police arrived quickly. 2 officers, both under 30, both clearly shaken when they unearthed the rest. 3 finger bones. A partial hand. 2 ribs. A jawbone. But no skull. Detective Marla Eddings, the only detective in town, arrived an hour later. "That's not animal," she said. The remains were sent to Burlington for forensic analysis. Sarah tried to sleep that night. She couldn't. Not because of the bones, but because she dreamed of the hand reaching upward and her own face screaming silently from below the soil. The bones were human. Within 48 hours, the Vermont Forensic Lab confirmed. Adult female. Late 30s. Height, approximate 5 feet 6 inches. Estimated time of burial, 30 to 40 years ago. No trauma. No cause of death identified. DNA testing pending. They didn't release the full report publicly, but Sarah received a visit from Eddings a few days later. The detective looked uncomfortable. Something odd came back on the preliminary DNA scan. Sarah leaned forward. "Odd how? We got a partial match. Very strong. Parental level match. Sarah, it matches you. But I'm not adopted." Sarah laughed at first. Awkward. Nervous. She wasn't adopted. She'd done a 23andMe test years ago. Had access to her full family tree. Her parents were deceased, but she had records. Birth certificate. Childhood photos. Hospital bills. There was no way that bone belonged to someone genetically related to her, not that closely. Unless, could it be a sibling? She asked. Eddings shook her head. Too strong a match. Sarah, if I didn't know better, I'd say the bones are yours. She starts dreaming of the garden. Every night, Sarah dreams of the same thing. She's digging, but not with tools, with her hands. Nails cracked. Soil thick. She's crying, but there's no sound. And as she digs deeper, she sees her own body, curled fetal in the earth. Not skeletal. Fresh. Eyes open. Watching her. She wakes gasping, hand clutched to her chest. Always at 3:14 a.m. A second discovery. On May 12th, Sarah tried to reclaim some sense of normalcy. She decided to finish the rose bed. Or at least move it. She avoided the first spot, digging several feet away. The earth turned easily, until her spade caught something smooth. She froze. Uncovered it. Another bone. This one was larger, a pelvis. And wrapped around it, a scrap of yellowed silk. Sarah knew that fabric. Knew it in her bones. She had a photo of it. It was the same nightgown her mother was buried in. But her mother wasn't buried there. Her mother, Evelyn Langley, had died in 1996. The funeral was in upstate New York. Sarah had been 15. She remembered the casket, the flowers, the gravesite. This wasn't a memory. This was a fact. She called the funeral home in Poughkeepsie. They confirmed the service. But when she asked where Evelyn had been buried, the clerk hesitated. "Ma'am, I don't have a burial record. Says here she was cremated." Sarah dropped the phone. The bones begin to match. Marla Eddings returned the next day with a fuller report. "We got the second DNA scan. From the new remains." Sarah braced herself. "Same results. Near perfect match to you. Except the pelvis, that doesn't match the first set. Which means now we've found 2 women buried in your yard. Both in their late 30s. Both with your DNA." Sarah laughed. Once. Then she locked the bathroom and vomited. Sarah starts seeing faces. She stops gardening. Boards up the window that looks into the backyard. But still, when she passes by at night, she sees them. Faces. Not full apparitions. Just eyes and mouths, barely visible, pressed into the glass. Each face looks like her. Not identical, but versions. Older. Younger. Hair longer. Bruised. Smiling. Screaming. And behind them, roses. Fresh. Blooming. Blood red. But there are no roses in her yard. Not anymore. She tries to dig them up. On May 14th, Sarah snaps. She grabs a shovel at midnight. Digs where she sees the eyes. The roses. But all she finds is dirt. Until she doesn't. 3 feet down. A small wooden box. Locked. Weather-worn. Tied with red twine. She pries it open. Inside, a locket she hasn't owned in 20 years. A Polaroid of her as a baby, but not the same house. A birth certificate. Not hers. Same name. Same birthday. But a different hospital. Different middle name. Closing scene, May 15, 2019. Sarah sits at the kitchen table, staring at the Polaroid. The baby's eyes are hers. But the woman holding her isn't Evelyn. It's someone else. Smiling. Wearing the same ring Sarah now wears, the one passed down from her mother. She flips the photo. Written on the back. Version 4, reburied 1983. Too early. Not ready. Sarah searches public records and finds other Sarah Langleys born on the same date, all deceased. One died in a fire. Another in childbirth. All her. All buried. But only she remained. May 16, 2019, 8:12 a.m., Fairhaven Public Library. Sarah sat surrounded by old birth records and death certificates. She hadn't slept. The Polaroid from the buried box sat in her jacket pocket, folded and soft, as if it had lived longer than she had. She wasn't searching for answers. Not really. She was searching for herself. First, the fire victim. A newspaper clipping from 1989. Unidentified woman, approximately 30 years old, found dead in structure fire near Waltham. House registered to an Evelyn Langley, deceased 1996. No surviving relatives. Body burned beyond recognition. Dental records inconclusive. Buried as Jane Doe number 1142. Sarah recognized the photo. It wasn't of the victim. It was of the house. It was the same porch she stood on every morning. Only the house in the photo was half burned. And it had no rose garden. Then the drowning. From a 1992 obituary database. Sarah Marie Langley, B. 1981, D. 1992. Age 11. Cause of death, accidental drowning. That's her name. That's her birth year. But not her middle name. Not her state. Not her face. The girl in the yearbook photo had freckles. Sarah didn't. But the birth date matched exactly. March 17, 1981. Same day. Same month. Same year. There were others. A Sarah Langley who died in childbirth in 2005. One who vanished during a college trip in 1999, presumed dead. Another listed as a suicide in 2010, jumped from a bridge in Oregon. One more, missing since 2012. No record of death, but described as unstable, possibly experiencing identity delusions. Each case was different. Different middle names. Different mothers. Different coasts. But always born March 17, 1981. And always Sarah Langley. Sarah begins to doubt her past. She calls her old pediatrician's office. Disconnected. Her high school? No one named Sarah Langley in the 1999 yearbook. Even though she still has hers. Even though she remembers posing for the photo. Her diploma? Gone. She opens the old cedar box her ex never touched. Finds her birth certificate. And notices something she never had before. The seal is faded. The paper thinner than standard. And her middle name is spelled Marie. But she was always Maria. Wasn't she? The DNA report returns. Detective Eddings visits again. Full DNA scans back. Sarah nods, numb. The first skeleton you found, the one under the rose bed, it's a 99.98% match. Statistically impossible unless you're genetically identical. Sarah just stares. You have any family history of twins? No. Cloning? What? Eddings shrugs. We're looking for answers, Sarah. But what we're finding is you. Over and over. Sarah finds a new grave. At dusk, she walks. Not far. Just behind the house. Where the grass doesn't grow right. The dirt is soft. Not freshly dug, but recently shifted. She digs again. And hits something hard. A coffin. No markings. Just stained pine, sealed with rusted nails. She pries it open. Inside. A girl. Dead. Black hair. Small hands. Wrist still wrapped with a hospital band. The name reads Sarah M. Langley. DB March 17, 81. Died 1983. The child is preserved, skin pale, waxy. Her face is exactly Sarah's. But 10 years too young. She starts receiving mail. May 18th. A letter arrives. No return address. Inside. A photo of a woman who looks just like her, asleep in a hospital bed. A wristband, Langley, Sarah, patient number 9. A sticky note, have you figured it out yet? Stop digging. Later that night, another package arrives. A tape recorder. She presses play. Her own voice. Entry 17, host appears stable. Integration holding. But she's getting curious again. If this one asks about the others, sedate immediately. We can't afford another reset. Sarah drops the recorder. It lands on her foot. The bones in her foot feel warm. Detective Eddings starts pulling away. Sarah tries to call Eddings. No answer. She drives to the station. Empty. Lights off. Files gone. She knocks at Marla's house. No one answers. On the porch, a yellow envelope. Inside, a note that says, "Don't trust your reflection." A photo of Sarah holding a shovel beside an open grave. And a third picture. Sarah asleep in her own bed. Taken from the ceiling. Things stop reflecting properly. May 19th. Sarah stands in front of the mirror. Moves her hand left. Her reflection moves right. Normal. She blinks. Her reflection doesn't. She leans forward. The reflection smiles. And whispers. This is version 7. You made it far. She backs away. But her reflection stays close. And when she looks again, it's not her anymore. Just an empty hospital room. Closing scene, May 20th, 2019. Sarah sits in the yard. The roses have begun to bloom. But she didn't plant them. Behind her, the soil trembles softly. And from the flower bed, a hand breaks through. But it isn't decayed. It's fresh. The wrist is wrapped in a tag. Langley S. Experimental host number 7, viability exceeded. Prepare reset. Sarah doesn't scream. She just whispers. Not again. Sarah begins to recover memories that were erased. Dreams of hospital beds, sedation, and a dark room where all the other Sarahs still breathe. One of them never forgot, and now it's her turn. May 21st, 2019, 2:43 a.m. Sarah's bedroom. She woke gasping. The dream had been clearer this time. Not just images. Instructions. Words spoken over her shoulder, soft and calm, in her own voice. Patient 9, integration exceeded parameters. Memory scaffold collapsing. Terminate and reset. Initiate next cycle. And the moment she opened her eyes, the power went out. She isn't alone in the house. Sarah rose with the flashlight. Every shadow seemed longer. She passed the hallway mirror, covered it with a towel. But as she turned the corner into the kitchen, she froze. Someone was sitting at the table, facing the window. Long black hair, pale arms. Still. Sarah raised the flashlight slowly. "Who are you?" The woman didn't turn. She just said softly, "I'm the one who didn't forget." The reflection that escaped. The figure stood, still facing away. "You've been here before. I was the one who broke the loop. But you kept digging." She finally turned around. Her face was Sarah's. But the eyes were different, ringed in red, unfocused, like they hadn't blinked in weeks. "I'm patient 9. The one they thought they buried. But I remembered. I crawled out. The facility that isn't supposed to exist." Sarah pressed her patient 9 for answers. She didn't give them. Instead, she handed Sarah an address. A GPS coordinate. Burned into a small bone fragment. Sarah Googled it. It wasn't far. Just outside the Green Mountains. No street name. Just Site V on the satellite map. Surrounded by trees. No road in. Just a dirt trail and a rusted gate. Inside the woods. May 22 to 4 p.m. Sarah drove to the edge of the coordinates. Walked the rest. Half an hour into the woods, she found it. A low concrete structure buried in the hill. Camouflaged. Windowless. The door was metal. Welded shut. But there were scratch marks near the bottom. And a symbol carved into the rust. Therefore 9, therefore. She enters the forgotten wing. Behind the door, darkness. The flashlight flickered. The hallway was narrow, lined in dull tile. Old fluorescent lights. Abandoned nurse station. The air smelled like iodine and bleach. But beneath it, something organic. Like skin left too long in water. The walls were covered in photos. Dozens. All of Sarah. Different hairstyles. Different ages. Some smiling. Some in restraints. Each labeled. Version 3 declined after 4 months. Version 5 breached memory frame. Version 6 attempted escape. The files in the locker. She pried open a rusted locker near the end of the corridor. Inside. Lab coat labeled Langley Drive S. A cassette labeled Reintegration Protocol version 2.6. A patient chart. #009 stable. Partial recall suppressed. Identity drift detected. Suggest termination before version collapse. And a handwritten note. One of them is remembering too early. If she unearths the bones, they all begin waking. The holding room. Room 7. Door sealed with duct tape and plastic sheeting. Inside, darkness. And breathing. Sarah stepped inside. And the breathing stopped. The lights flickered. On the far side of the room were 6 beds. Occupied. Each one with a sleeping woman. Each one hooked to tubes. Monitors. IVs dripping something dark and slow. And each woman was her. The one that opens her eyes. As Sarah approached the 3rd bed, the woman in it opened her eyes. No panic. Just recognition. It's time, isn't it? Sarah couldn't speak. You're the current one. You lasted longer. They didn't expect that. She gripped Sarah's hand. If you're here, it means they're coming. It means we all wake up soon. And then we choose. Choose what? Sarah whispered the question. The woman on the bed smiled. Who gets to keep the name? Who gets to be real? The emergency alarm. A klaxon blared overhead. Dim red lights spun. A voice, garbled, automated, filled the corridor. External breach detected. Initiating purge cycle. Evacuate all assets. The lights above each bed turned from blue to red. And the 4 lines began to hiss. Not saline. Not medicine. Something darker. Sarah screamed, tried to disconnect them. But 2 of the other women were already convulsing. And one began to laugh, manic, gurgling, choking. Patient 9 returns. At the end of the hallway, Patient 9 appeared. Covered in blood. They came for me first. She pointed at Sarah. But you're the newest one. So you're the one who has to decide. Let us go. Or take the name and leave alone. The choice. Sarah ran to the power grid. The panel was rusted but operational. 2 switches. One marked, vital, individual. The other, cycle, continuation. A handwritten note read. Can't shut both. One wakes. Others fade. Your body, your choice. Sarah cried. Screamed. Pulled a switch. The lights blew out. The hum stopped. And someone behind her whispered. Thank you. Closing scene, May 23, 2019. Sarah woke in her bed. Alone. No flowers outside. No bones. No photos. No memory of how she got back. But when she looked in the mirror, her eyes were different. One brown, one green, and on her wrist, a faint imprint of a hospital band. Sarah tries to live normally again, but voices in her head speak languages she's never learned. And a letter arrives from someone claiming to be the original and demanding her life back. May 24, 2019, 7:06 a.m., Fairhaven, Vermont. Sarah sat in front of the mirror, still in her pajamas. One eye brown, one green. She'd scrubbed them, stared into a flashlight, Googled heterochromia, but the truth echoed louder than the facts. You're the newest one, so you're the one who has to decide. Trying to feel normal. She tried to reset, made coffee, fed the neighbor's cat, walked into town, bought bread, but something was wrong. Everyone she passed looked at her too long, not with suspicion, with recognition. The woman at the bakery smiled and said, It's been years, Sarah. You haven't aged a day. Sarah had never seen her before. The letter arrives. Back home, an envelope lay under the door. No stamp, no name, just one line across the front. You took my face. Inside, a photograph. Grainy, color faded. It showed Sarah as a child, maybe 6, sitting in a hospital bed. But she didn't remember the moment, because in the photo, she was asleep. Beside her bed, another child. Same face, smiling, holding a scalpel behind her back. The voice on the phone. That evening, her landline rang. She never used it. She picked up. Hello? Silence. Then her own voice. You didn't wake them. You just buried them deeper. That wasn't a decision. It was a delay. You weren't supposed to survive this long. Return what you took, or I'll come up through your teeth. Click. Nightmares intensify. Sarah stopped sleeping. Each time she drifted off, she found herself in a hospital hallway, barefoot, the walls curving inward, ceiling lights blinking. She always turned a corner and saw herself, usually asleep in a gurney. Sometimes hooked up to machines. Sometimes watching her from the inside of a mirror. And always in the distance. Laughter. Dozens of voices. All hers. The woman at the bus stop. May 25th, 5:40 p.m. She stood waiting for a bus into Burlington, just to clear her head. Then a woman approached. Older. 50s, same face. Wearing sunglasses. Gray sweater. Calm. I'm the original, she said. Born March 17th, 1981. Hospital A4. Cohort 0. Sarah stared, frozen. The woman took off her glasses. No eyes. Just stitched lids. You shouldn't have lasted, but you passed through the scaffold too clean. Now they're bleeding into you. You're not whole. You're a container. She leaves a box. That night, Sarah found a small box at her front door. No lock. Inside, 6 fingernails, all painted different colors. A broken mirror shard. A sticky note. You wore her too well. Now you owe her skin. And at the bottom, a folded hospital gown with her name tag sewn in. Version 0, the memory that isn't hers. May 26th. Sarah dreams of being under anesthesia. A ceiling light spinning. A voice counting down. Someone whispering, "We'll try again. Maybe this time she'll stay." She wakes gasping and sees her reflection standing beside her bed. Not moving, just watching. Her mouth stitched shut with thread, but her eyes glowing green and brown. The hospital record appears. In her mailbox, an old medical chart. No return address. Subject, Langley S. Status, retained host body. Notes, personality fragments show signs of emergence. Warning, if exposed to previous shells, collapse is imminent. At the bottom, do not allow version 9 to sleep. Do not allow her to dig. The house changes. She begins hearing noises in the walls again. Scratching, clicking, mirrors fog spontaneously. Drawers open by themselves. And in the garden, the roses have returned, but they aren't rooted. Each one is growing from something buried. She digs one up. Beneath it, a face, mouthless, but smiling. Her own. Closing scene, May 27th, 2019. Sarah locks every door, covers the mirrors, sits in the dark with a kitchen knife. But at exactly 3:14 a.m. the phone rings. She answers. Her own voice again. "You've worn the name too long. Time to shed it. Come back downstairs, Sarah. Your turn to be the bones." Sarah descends into the buried parts of the facility again. But it's not as she left it, it's evolved. The other versions are waking, and some of them aren't happy she made it this far. May 28th, 2019 at 2:06 a.m. just outside Fairhaven. Sarah drove with no music. Only headlights, silence, and a single sentence looping in her head. "Come back downstairs, Sarah. Your turn to be the bones." She didn't pack anything. No phone, no water, just a shovel, a flashlight, and the hospital gown labeled version 0 folded tight in the passenger seat. The dirt trail was still there. The GPS didn't work this time. She didn't need it. She followed the same overgrown trail into the forest. But something felt different. The birds were silent. No wind. The trees bent inward like they were leaning to watch. She reached the same rusted gate, but now it hung open. Behind it, nothing but thick, unnatural fog. The facility is changing. Sarah stepped through the door. The same flickering lights, same tiled floor, but now the hallway sloped downward longer than she remembered, and the walls pulsed. Softly, like lungs, or someone humming. The spiral corridor. 10 minutes into the descent, the hallway twisted, curved left, then left again, and again, until it formed a perfect spiral. Every 30 feet, a mirror on the wall. Every mirror showed a different version of her. One smiling with missing teeth. One crying black tears. One with her mouth stitched closed. One with no eyes at all, just bruised skin. The last mirror near the center of the spiral showed nothing. No reflection, only a dark hallway behind her. She turned around, but the hallway was empty. The place where versions sleep. The corridor ended at a large steel door. It opened as she approached. No locks, no hinges, just compliance. Inside, a room colder than the rest. White tiles, 8 gurneys, 7 occupied. The women on the beds twitched, mouths slightly open. All of them were Sarah, for lines ran into their necks. Each bed labeled V1, renal collapse, V2, cognitive flood, V3, physical disassociation, V4, systemic rejection, V5, suicide protocol breach, V6, facial drift, V7, unknown termination. And the 8th bed? Empty, but tagged. V9, active host current. Patient 9 speaks again. Sarah turned. In the shadows behind the gurneys stood patient 9, her face split by a healing scar, smile too wide. "You lasted longer than any of us." They were wrong. You weren't the failure. You were the mask that stuck. But now the others are waking, and they want the name back. The others begin to wake. One by one, the gurneys began to tremble. Eyes opened. Mouths opened. Some screamed. One started laughing. Another sang "Happy Birthday" on repeat. Another whispered, "Kill the new one," over and over. Patient 5 sat up. "She's still wearing our face." Patient 6. "That wasn't the deal." Patient 2 crying. "We were supposed to all forget." Together, they surround her. Sarah backed into the corner. All 7 stood now, barefoot. Some in gowns, some in hospital bracelets, each distorted. Not monstrous, just off. And yet, every one of them looked more like her than she did. Patient 9 approached. "They buried us to hide the failure. But now that you broke the soil, now that you made them remember, we're all out of sequence. And you have to choose again." The bone crown. Patient 1 held up an object. Twisted, pale. A crown made of finger bones, bent into spirals. The one who wears it becomes the name. The others go back under. They offered it to Sarah. She stepped forward. Her hands shook, but just as she reached out, Patient 3 lunged, grabbed it, screamed. "No more waiting. I was first." The room exploded into chaos. The gurneys collapsed. Alarms blared. For bags burst. Ceiling lights shattered. The mirror behind them cracked and reflected a 9th woman stepping out. Not Sarah. Not quite. Someone older. Smiling. Clapping slowly. "I told you they'd eat themselves. And now the host body is mine again." Sarah flees. She ran. Past the gurneys. Through the spiral hall. Out the metal door. But now the facility was shifting, the hallways rearranging, growing flesh-colored, wet with condensation. Stairs curved backward. Lights blinked words she couldn't read. Behind her, footsteps. More than one set. And always, always that voice. "Bring the name back, Sarah. It's not yours to keep." The final room. She reached a chamber she'd never seen before. 8 chairs. A mirror in the ceiling. In the center, a spotlight. And in the spotlight, a hospital gown identical to hers. A tag on it read, "Reset available. Version pending. Place gown to proceed." She didn't. She took the gown, burned it on the floor, and whispered, "No more resets." Closing scene, May 28th, 3:14 a.m. Outside, the fog cleared. Sarah stumbled from the woods. The facility vanished behind her like it had never existed. But on her arm, a fresh scar. Words carved into her skin. Version unstable, observe closely. And in her reflection back home. Her eyes were gone, but her mouth whispered, "You kept the name, but not the self." Sarah returns home, but things are off. Everyone remembers her differently. Her handwriting has changed. Her voice isn't quite hers. And someone else is now using her credit card in her hometown where she's never been. May 29th, 2019, 9:41 a.m., Fairhaven, Vermont. Sarah stared at her reflection again. No eyes. Just smooth, unbroken skin where pupils used to be. Yet somehow she still saw. More than she should. When she blinked, or what passed for blinking now, she could see layers. A pale face watching her from inside the mirror. A hospital room layered under her kitchen. A spiral of bones spinning quietly beneath the floorboards. The coffee shop that knew her differently. She went into town. Needed normal. Or some version of it. She walked into Benny's Brew, her usual cafe. The barista smiled. "Decaf, 2 sugars, right?" Sarah nodded. "Good to see you again, Jenna." She froze. "Sorry, what did you say?" The barista laughed. "You're Jenna. Jenna Brooks. You've been coming here for years." Sarah stepped back. "No, I'm Sarah Langley." The barista blinked, then tilted her head. "Who's Sarah?" She checks her wallet. Her ID still says Sarah Langley. DOB, March 17th, 1981. Photo matches. Address correct. But when she pulls her debit card, something's off. The name reads Jenna B. Langley. She never had a middle name that started with B. She checks her signature on the back. It's not her handwriting, but it's her name. Sort of. Home isn't quite hers anymore. That night, she notices things inside the house. The bedroom wallpaper is a different color. The fridge magnets spell a phrase she doesn't recognize. "I never asked tea awake." Her journals, all the entries are there, but the words are different. Written in past tense. As if someone else is reading her life. She opens one. The final line reads, "She will not survive version 10. A new transaction alert." Her phone buzzes. Bank alert, $62.17 spent at Portman's Hardware, Keene, New Hampshire. Sarah hasn't left Fairhaven. She doesn't know anyone in Keene. She calls the bank. After security checks, the rep says, "The card was swiped in person. Chip read, no fraud flagged." And it matched your voice print confirmation. Sarah hangs up. Checks Google Maps. Keene is where she was born. but she hasn't been there in 27 years. She goes back to her childhood home. May 30th, 2 p.m. Sarah drives to Keene. Her childhood home still stands. Same red shutters. Same slanted porch. Her name still etched into the back fence. But the mailbox says, Brooks. She knocks. A woman answers. Identical to her. Maybe a few years older. The woman's eyes widen, then narrow. You're not supposed to be here. The woman who took her place. Sarah asks, Are you me? The woman doesn't answer. She just holds up a small metal tag. Sarah Langley, version 10, assigned host. They were going to bury me again. But you hesitated. You let the loop fracture. So I took the name, the card, the face. You're not Sarah anymore. You're what's left. The glass cracks. Sarah stumbles backward. Her reflection in the woman's front window shatters inward, not the glass, just the image. The version staring back is eyeless, mouth sewn shut. In its hand, the bone crown. The one she refused to wear. They remember differently. Back in town, she asks a neighbor. Do you remember me? The woman frowns. You used to babysit my kids. Jenna, right? Another neighbor. Didn't you teach piano? Or was that your sister? A cashier. Langley? You mean the one that went missing? No one can agree on who she is, but all remember someone with her face. Someone who's been here longer than she has. The mirrors start writing. That night, her bathroom mirror fogs without steam. 3 words appear. The versions vote. She closes her eyes. Behind her eyelids, she sees them again, all 9. Sitting in a circle, facing inward. Their hands bone white. Their mouths chanting something she can't understand. Then one voice breaks through. You didn't return the name, so we'll carve it out. Closing scene, May 31st, 2019. Sarah tries to write her name. Pen to paper. Scribble after scribble. But it always ends the same way. Jenna. Even her signature betrays her. And just before she sleeps, she hears a whisper from her closet. The bones are rising again. And this time, they want to vote you out. Sarah is dragged into a final confrontation, a subconscious trial where each version argues for the right to exist. But someone has broken the rules. One version is missing and killing off the rest. June 1st, 2019, 3:14 a.m. The Dream Court. Sarah wasn't asleep. Not exactly. But she wasn't awake either. The room around her blinked out like a dying monitor. Colors reversed. Sound stretched. And she was standing barefoot on black tile shaped like a spiral deep in a void that felt like it had been waiting for her since birth. Before her stood 9 chairs, rib-boned, flesh-colored, humming faintly. In each one, a version of herself. And at the center, an empty 10th seat. The tribunal begins. The air buzzed. Then a voice, many voices, layered, filled the space. The integration has failed. Name retention unstable. Vote required. Outcome binding. Host identity to be reassigned. Sarah tried to speak. Her mouth stayed closed. Instead, her voice echoed from the other chairs. Version 1, the first draft. Brittle and shaking, a woman with dry skin and nervous eyes stood. She doesn't deserve it. She ran. She buried us. She was supposed to forget, but she dug and dug. She unsettled the cycle. She held up a notebook. Pages torn, covered in spirals. She's not stable. I vote to erase her. The tile beneath Sarah glowed faint red. Version 2, the mirror echo. This one had no mouth. Just smooth skin where lips should be. Still, her voice came clearly. We were made to hold space. To breathe, to blink, to mimic. She started asking questions. She remembered too soon. I vote to remove. Another red glow. Version 3, the one who burned. Her body was scarred. Ash gray. Hair short. Eyes missing. She has nerve, I'll give her that. But she hesitated. Didn't save us. Left the others to rot while she climbed out. I'd keep her if she wasn't so full of doubt. Vote, remove. The spiral tile darkened. 3 red. Version 4, the pregnant silence. She didn't stand. Just held her swollen stomach and whispered. She left us here. Took the name. Took the heartbeat. Vote, remove. Version 5, the smiling one. Wearing a torn nurse's uniform, this version grinned too widely. She played her part. Made it to 6 chapters, didn't she? But now the mask is slipping. And we can't have that. Vote, erase. Version 6, the feral. She didn't speak at all. Just growled. Scratched at her own face. But the meaning was clear. Another glow. 6 red. Version 7, the one who waited. Finally, someone stood who looked tired, not angry. She didn't run. She remembered. She climbed down. She spoke to us. She could have worn the crown, but didn't. She's broken, yes, but she's not like the rest of you. I vote she stays. One blue light. The first. Version 8, patient 9. She looked straight at Sarah. Scarred. Unblinking. Calm. She's us. We all thought we could handle it. None of us made it this far. She isn't the failure. She's the mirror that cracked and kept shining. I vote keep. The 10th chair. The tribunal waited. The 9th vote. But the 10th seat remained empty. The void buzzed. Final vote missing. Consensus void. Search initiated. Something is wrong. The versions begin to stir. Some twitch. One convulses. A ripple passes through the spiral floor. From the empty chair, a shadow spills upward. Not a version. A fracture. A tall, thin woman with no face. Bones exposed along her arms. She moves without joints. The versions fall silent. One whispers. That's not one of us. The missing version. She approaches the center. In her hands, a spine. Worn. Stained. Spiraled into a knot. She sets it on the empty chair. Then speaks with every voice at once. I was made from all your failures. I am the misremembered. The unnamed. I ate version 9 while she slept. Then I watched the rest. I vote take the name. Take the skin. Become real. Erase the rest. The spiral cracks. The floor glows white hot. The red lights begin to blink violently. Tiles collapse inward. Versions scream. One chair snaps in half. Another version melts into the spiral. And Sarah? Stands still. Because in this moment she knows something none of them do. She knows her name. She speaks. Her mouth unlocks. The tribunal pauses. I don't need your vote, she says. I was the fracture. I was the first one who saw herself dig and smiled. You didn't name me because you couldn't. You're not the real ones. I am. Because I'm still standing. She steps into the 10th chair. The shadow hisses. The tribunal shrieks. But the spiral reverses. Red turns white. The air pulls inward. And all the versions fade into mirrors, into tiles, into bone dust. Only Sarah remains. And in the mirror above her head. Her reflection nods. Both eyes present. Brown and green. Whole. Closing scene June 2nd, 2019. Sarah wakes in her bed. Sunlight outside. No voice in her head. Her hands steady. But the clock blinks. 3:14 a.m. She walks to the mirror. Smiles. And this time, the smile is only hers. Now that Sarah has survived the vote, she starts to change physically. Her fingerprints vanish. Her voice warps. And in a town 2 states away, someone else with her face is found dead. June 3rd, 2019, 7:02 a.m., Fairhaven, Vermont. Sarah held her hand under the sink. The water felt normal. But something was wrong. She reached for a towel, and as she dried her skin, she noticed. Her fingerprints were gone. Smooth. Featureless. Not faded, erased. The small changes. Throughout the day, small things kept happening. Her voice on voicemails played back slightly deeper than she remembered. Her reflection blinked late. Her shadow didn't align with her body at sunset. And when she tried to log into her online banking app, it said, identity mismatch, facial recognition failed. She scanned again. Still rejected. The phone's camera showed her face. But the software didn't believe it. An email from a dead woman. That afternoon, she received an email from a throwaway address. From s.langley.8@survivemail.net. Subject, did you win? If you're reading this, it means one of us survived the vote. Either you or me. There's a body in Maine. Same face. No name. No records. I need to know if it's you. Or if I'm the one who died. Go to Camden. Ask for room 9 at the Whitlock Motel. You'll know what to do. Camden, Maine, June 4th. Sarah drove through the night. She reached the motel by 2 a.m. No lights. The clerk was asleep behind the desk. No questions asked. She found room 9 unlocked. Inside, clean. Empty. Quiet. But on the bed lay a woman's body. Face up. Wearing Sarah's favorite sweater. Her old hospital bracelet. Her own eyes staring at the ceiling, glazed, open. It was her. The body's features were unmistakable. Same jawline. Same birthmark. Even the small scar on the left wrist. But the hair was longer. The teeth slightly crooked, an earlier version, maybe. The fingers were perfectly printed. Sarah checked the palms. Lines were there. The ones that had vanished from her own. A Polaroid on the nightstand. Beside the bed lay a photo. 2 children, maybe 6 years old, holding hands in hospital gowns. Both had her face. But one was smiling. The other frowning. On the back of the photo. You were always the better shell. But I was the stronger name. The final note. Under the mattress, she found a sealed envelope. Handwritten. To whoever won. Inside. You think you know who you are now. You don't. Surviving the vote doesn't mean you're whole. It means the other parts let go first. But one of us never left. She hid in the bones. The one we buried earliest. The one with no name at all. If she wakes, you don't get to be real. You get to be remembered. That's worse. The woman in the mirror returns. Back in Fairhaven, Sarah caught movement in her hallway mirror. She paused and saw herself but younger. Version 2? 3? The reflection raised a finger to its lips, then pointed down to the floorboards. She digs one last time. June 5 to 3:14 a.m. Sarah pulls the carpet. Pry bar in hand, she lifts the boards beneath her hallway. The smell is faint, familiar, like old dirt and time. She digs until her hands are raw, then finds a box. Not a coffin, not a locker, just a sealed wooden crate with a child's drawing taped to the top. Crayon, spiral shapes, 2 stick figures. One labeled me, the other me. She opens it. Inside, a skull. Tiny. Fused. Wrong. Too many teeth. No eye sockets. But on the bone, etched carefully in black ink. The one you forgot. She can't close the box. She tries, but her hands won't move. Her arms lock at the elbows. And in her head, a voice she hasn't heard before says, "You voted me out, but you were supposed to bury me. You kept the name. I kept the face." And from the open floor, something pulls her reflection inward. Closing scene, June 5th, 3:17 a.m. The mirror in Sarah's hallway shatters, but not outward, inward. And from the glass, a new version climbs out. No skin, just a body of bone and spiral and stitched mouths. She picks up the photo, smiles. Time to vote again. Sarah fights to stop the version buried first, the one that never got a name, never had a face. But she doesn't just want identity. She wants to remake the world in her own fractured image. June 6, 2019, 3:44 a.m. Fairhaven, Vermont. Sarah stood barefoot in the hallway, staring into the splintered mirror. Something was still moving inside. Not her reflection. Not even a shadow. Something deeper. Something remembering her wrong. A shape peeled itself from the cracked glass, jointed backwards, walking like a puppet that had only seen people described in writing. Its face had no eyes. Only indentations, stitched lips, and a spiral carved directly into the forehead. It whispered with her voice, but slower. "Hollow, you buried me before I was born. Now I get to be real." The mirror thing has a name. It didn't speak it aloud, but Sarah heard it in her head. Unsarah. Not a name. A subtraction. She remembered the ledger, the one she found in the facility. The pages had version numbers, dates, failures, but the very first entry had been scratched out. No number, no status, just one word. Unmade. It wants the world to match. Unsarah didn't just want to replace Sarah. She wanted to fix the mistake. You were the name they tested. I was the shape they feared. She touched the floor. The house groaned, and the hallway warped. The wallpaper peeled in spirals. The floorboards twisted. The windows grew teeth. Sarah tries to escape. She ran. Out the door. Down the street. But the world came with her. Every surface she passed began to fracture, not break, but realign. She passed a bus stop and the ad had changed. Not a perfume brand, but a birth certificate. Her name, date of birth, and under it. Revoked. Others begin to feel it. In town, people froze mid-step. Some stared at her with recognition. Others screamed. One man looked into his phone and forgot how to speak. A child looked at Sarah and said, "That's not her." The clouds overhead spun in a slow circle. A spiral opened in the sky, and from above, the same whispered word. Unmade. 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 The memories start peeling back. Sarah began forgetting small things. Her favorite color, her old street name, her father's voice. In their place, images she never lived. Needles, glass rooms, a metal door that locked from the outside. She remembered being lowered into the earth while still breathing. And someone watching. Stay still. If she twitches, start again. The other versions appear one last time. In the town square, Sarah saw them. All of them. The dead versions. Burned, buried, drowned, erased. All walking. Some limping. Some crawling. Led by Unsarah. Their mouths stitched, but their heads tilted upward. They were looking at her. Not with hatred, with expectation. They want her to choose again. The spiral in the sky began to lower. A column of smoke. Bone fragments spinning slowly within. A voice, hers, yet not, spoke. One must remain. All others become the dream. Sarah stepped forward. I was the first. The unnamed. The true. Sarah stepped forward too. But I'm the only one who lived. Sarah smiled. Exactly. Sarah makes her final choice. She didn't run. She didn't fight. She reached out, touched Sarah's forehead, felt the spiral burned into the bone, and whispered, "You're not me, but you are mine." Then she leaned in and breathed her name into the empty sockets. Sarah, everything folds. The spiral spun inward. The town folded like paper. People collapsed into memory dust. Buildings vanished. Phones melted. And Sarah was alone, in a white room, lit from below, standing before a hospital bed. On it, her own body, hooked to wires, sleeping. She was the dream. Monitors beeped. A nurse passed by, unaware of her. In the mirror above the bed, no reflection, but a voice whispered over the speaker. Project Cathedra termination confirmed. Version 0 incomplete. Version 10 reintegrated. Releasing host. The body on the bed gasped. Eyes opened. And it was her. Closing scene, June 7th, 2019. Sarah walks out of the hospital. Alive. Whole. Real. A nurse nods politely. Discharge approved. Please remember. This version is now final. Sarah doesn't respond. Just walks into the light. As behind her, the mirror cracks once more. And a voice sighs. Or is it? In the final part, Sarah must live in the world as the last surviving version. But the world remembers differently. And something in her reflection is still counting down. June 8th, 2019, 9 a.m., somewhere between. Sarah didn't know where she was. Not exactly. The hospital had discharged her. No signature. No paperwork. Just a nod and a door that opened by itself. She stepped through and found herself walking a road that didn't exist on any map. The signs were blank. The sky was still. And the sun didn't cast a shadow. She's the only version now. But the mirrors disagree. In the gas station window, she sees someone else wearing her skin standing just behind her. In the grocery store freezer aisle, her reflection blinks late, then stares for a second too long. In her phone screen, static, until a face flashes. Her own, crying, mouthing something. 10, 9, 8. The countdown begins. She finds it everywhere now. Digital clocks skip to 3:14 a.m., even in the afternoon. Every receipt prints the same total, $9.09. A license plates rearrange themselves into spirals. And every time she hears static, she hears the voice. Soft, calm. You were the one who walked away, but the walk has a price. People remember differently now. She tries to explain, to talk to people, to prove she's real. But every conversation bends. Her mother remembers raising a daughter named Claire. Her old boss claims they've never met. Her own name triggers a pause, then polite confusion. It's as if her name is slipping out of the world, one mouth at a time. The spiral returns. June 10th. Sarah finds herself drawing it. Unconsciously, on napkins, dusty windows, receipts. One night, she wakes with her arm covered in spirals drawn in ink. None of it hers. And in her handwriting journal, a new page appears. Version 11. Stabilized, memory volatile, body functioning, self-recognition eroding. She visits her childhood home, or tries to. The house is still there, but it's a museum now, a preserved historical home. Built in 1926, abandoned since 1984. Tour guide says, "We like to say the house remembers its guests. There was a girl who lived here once. She disappeared, left behind drawings of bones and herself. We never found her." She finds the drawing on the bedroom wall, preserved behind glass. A child's drawing, spiral in the center. Two stick figures. One labeled me, the other labeled the one I become. Her name isn't on it, but the crayon used is the same color she found in the box beneath her floor. The countdown finishes. June 13 to 3:14 a.m. Her phone vibrates. Every app erased except one. K.THDRA_V1.0. She opens it. A spinning spiral. A sound begins playing. A slow, deep inhale. Then her voice. This is the end of remembering. We are the last version. But something else still watches. Then silence. Then 0. She wakes somewhere new. Sarah opens her eyes. Not in bed, but in a hallway of mirrors. Each one empty. Each one dusty. Each one slightly cracked. She walks, alone, until she sees one with her reflection. Just one. The mirror pulses once. Then flashes words. Name accepted. Body granted. The dream is over. The world reboots. She wakes again. Same town. Same sunlight. But this time everyone knows her name. Her ID scans. Her voice unlocks doors. Her reflection matches. But there's a difference now. She walks with weight. Every step echoes. And in the back of every mirror, deep in the layers of reflection, there is always a faint spiral. Closing scene, June 14th, 2019. Sarah walks to the park, sits in the sun, feels the wind. A child passes her and says, "I drew you, in class." She looks down. The child hands her a piece of paper. 2 stick figures. One says Sarah. The other, the one who stayed,